And welcome into Coleman today. I'm Debbie Wood along with Mike Mullaney. We're actually in the building where Goat Island Brewery is brewing is going to be soon. And as you can hear from all the activity in the back, they have started. And how excited are you guys?
Oh, we're excited. This has been a long time coming.
It's been a long process, hasn't it?
It's been a long process.
I love it. Let's tell everybody a little bit about how we got started. Now, about a little over 2 years ago, of course, I would see you at church. Mike and I go to church together at St. John's, but didn't really know you. I knew your mother, knew some of your family, but some mutual friends sort of connected us. Sort of tell us what happened. And you've already been through this process once, sort of.
Right. Well, John Dean, one of the founders of this brewery, came in and was talking with you, and you said, well, we're going to do a brew pub, and he said, well, we're going to do a brewery, and you said, well, I want y'all in there. So
yes, and that's how.
And we did. So the four of us, John Dean, myself, Brad Glenn, and Gary Teitmiller, were the Blue Moose Brew Crew at your restaurant, the Blue Moose Cafe.
We even had shirts for them that said that Blue Moose Crew. Crew.
So yeah, and so we loved it, and we started dreaming about making a larger brewery, and here we are, 3 years later, and we're doing it.
Now, at that time, Mike, of course, you had to go through all the process of the same thing that you had to do now, maybe a little bit more involved now, but you had to go through this. You have to get approved by the state of Alabama, the city, the state, and also federal.
Right.
And that's a big process.
It's a big process. It took. We still don't have our license here. Of course, we did go through all that at the Blue Moose. But it's well over 100 days since we started our federal permit, and we've got a lot of information that we still have to get to the state before we get their permit. So gotten pretty much everything we need from the city now, but we're on our way, and it's just going to take some time.
It is, isn't it? And the neat thing about these guys, and of course we're going to introduce you to the other three crew members in a minute, but the neat thing about these guys is three of them had actually gone to school together, graduated from Coleman High School. Is that correct?
That's right.
And then, of course, they pulled Gary Teitmiller into the mix, and they've just become great friends and something in common that they love to do. And to me, this is an art. This is not just about drinking beer. This is really an art form, I think, because there's a lot that's involved and goes into it.
Yeah, it is an art, and it's science, and that's kind of why we like it. There's a lot to it. You've got fermentation, which is biology and biochemistry, and then you've got all the thermodynamics with keeping the temperatures correct. So it's really fun. We've been doing it for many, many years on a small scale, but we just can't wait to do this in the big time with these big fermenters that we got part of them in today.
Exactly, and that's what you saw just a little bit ago. You saw the stainless steel tanks and the fermenters and stuff, and it's so exciting. And we want to turn around just a second, and you sort of point out to us, if you will, what we're seeing. Everything's sort of under construction, and I know over to your right are the tanks, and the guys are working over there. What's over there?
They're doing plumbing. We're going to have bathrooms in this facility as part of the tap room, so they're over there in what will be our bathrooms. Just behind them will be our big cooler, and behind that you'll see that we have our tanks. That's not where they will go, but we've got them staged for now. And actually the brewing system itself is uncovered there. We're going to pour a bigger, thicker pad with a drainage system, and that's where all the brewing will happen, and the fermenters, and that's where we are at this point.
Great. And we're standing actually where the tasting room will be. Is that correct?
That's
and tell
correct.
us about that.
We will have all of our beers on tap here. We're actually purchasing the old Blue Moose system for a small batch system so that we can experiment and let people come in and try things and see how they sell. And then if it's a big seller, we might put it on the big system. But we will have a bar over here for people to sit and enjoy our products. And all this space here is all tap room or seating.
And the neat thing about breweries and brewing companies is that food trucks come out, and we want to talk just a little bit about, I was going to say Huntsville and Birmingham, that's how they do, and that'll be no different here. You'll have food trucks that'll be welcome to come in, and of course they'll give us the schedule on that later. But Huntsville and Birmingham, and I would you say that Coleman is, or not Coleman itself, but Alabama is sort of one of the last states to really get big with the brewing?
Yeah, the whole craft brewing movement started out west, California, and the whole West Coast, and it's kind of slowly marched its way through this way. But the whole Southeast, and Alabama and Mississippi in particular, are probably the last states to really get a foothold in it, and people are just now discovering, wow, this is good beer. This is way better than Bud Light and that type of thing. So we're introducing that along with the breweries that are already in Huntsville, Birmingham, Gadsden. You know, we have a few breweries already, but it's nowhere near what you have out west.
It isn't, is it? And when you're talking about Huntsville and Birmingham, and let me tell you, folks, these folks, it's just like a little family. They all get along together. They visit this group. The brew crew visits the other places, and the other places will certainly come here and visit you. And I think that's sort of a neat thing is everybody's different, but you're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's an unusual industry. Most industries are competitive. Not so with the craft brewing industry. If we need to borrow something, one of the other breweries are happy to let us borrow it, and we share information with each other. So it's kind of, like you said, a little community, a little fraternity of brewers.
Mm-hmm. And they're all happy. They're always happy. They're always happy to help each other. But no, seriously, to me, it's such an exciting time for not just the state of Alabama, but for Coleman, for the city of Coleman, because we are doing a lot of growing, and this is certainly going to put us on the map with the other breweries, and you'll be amazed at the people that will come in and from other communities, other towns, other states, and see. I think there's a Brewers Trail already, isn't it?
Well, we're working on that to get that, yeah. But it is tied heavily with tourism. Mm-hmm. People will come from all over to visit breweries. Yes. It's just something people like to do.
See.
And
I'm not being biased, I promise you. But no doubt these guys know what they're doing, and it's unlike, and I'll just tell you this, my boys have said it is, everything that they do is better than any of the other craft brewers that they have been to in any of the states. So I think that says a lot, don't you? And it's exciting. So.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Exactly. One other thing real quick before we talk to the other guys and introduce them is you've got 4, I think, that you're going to start out with, and one is a Richter's Pilsner. Tell us about that.
That's correct. One of the founders, John Dean, in the insurance industry was calling on one of his customers, Vincent's Furniture, and they had been collecting Coleman memorabilia, and he was going through it, and one of the things he found was a little booklet that had some pictures of William F. Richter, who used to own a saloon. My wife is a descendant of his, and so John said, can I borrow this? And so he borrowed it because it had what looked like a recipe in it. It's in half German, half English. And so we had that deciphered. It was in Old German, so we finally got the recipe. We brewed that beer, and it is a delicious German Pilsner. So it's one of our most exciting beers. It's got a great story behind it, but it's also very delicious beer.
See, isn't that great? And everybody that I've heard been able to taste it have raved about it. So it's just going to be one of those things. Get ready. Goat Island Brewing will be coming soon, and we hope as time goes on, of course, in a few weeks, we'll come back and show you the progress that we've made. And maybe as time goes on, maybe close to Christmas, we'll be able to give you more of a time frame, you think, of when we might be open. But we're looking at after the first of the year?
It'll be after the first of the year. We're hoping, shooting for January.
Okay, good deal. Thanks, Mike. We're going to meet the other guys. Hang in here. And now we're going to introduce you to our crew, our new Goat Island Brewing crew. And Mike Mullaney's going to introduce us and sort of tell us what this bunch is going to be responsible for.
Okay, well, this is Gary Teitmiller. He is our head brewmaster, and he is also basically in charge of production. So
Does he know what he's doing?
He knows what he's been doing. He's been brewing for how many years, Gary?
Since 1979.
Do you love it? I mean, is it just something that you just love to do, or are you just bored?
I think it's just in my blood.
It is, isn't it, Teitmiller?
No doubt about it, yeah.
And another thing that Gary does is he does wine, too. Is that correct?
He makes the best wine. If we had time, we'd open a wine.
I was going to say, a lot of people are going to want you to do wine, too, but you don't have time, do you?
No, this is all encompassing.
Okay, great.
Too
So,
old for that.
too old for that. But so Gary will be the head brewmaster. Okay.
And then let's go over to Brad, because Brad is going to be in the brewery as well, assistant brewer with Gary. Those two guys will be in here full time before John and I. But Brad is also, will grow into our HR role as we hire more people, and he's also kind of our chaplain whenever we meet. He's usually in charge of starting us off with prayer.
I love that. That's a good thing to know. I knew that, but a lot of other people might not know that, so that's a good thing. He's a really good guy, isn't he?
He's a great guy. These are all good guys.
They are, aren't they? I've got to tell this now before we talk to John. Is Brad and John and yourself, y'all all graduated together, is that correct?
We did. We graduated from Coleman High School in 1980. We've basically known each other at least since the 5th grade. Me and John go back further than that, and I believe John and Brad go back to
Kindergarten.
Oh,
so we've known each other a long time.
That's pretty neat. That's really neat. And tell us about John.
John is our marketing guru. I mean, he loves to sell Goat Island beer. In fact, he was selling this beer
At the Blue Moose.
at the Blue Moose, and years before that. Before he even talked us into having a brewery, he was already going down to Auburn. He had talked to people in bars and say, he'd come back and tell us he sold our beer. I'm like, well, we don't have a brewery. But now we can let him loose, and he's really good at marketing. We do have this Gib Gear, we call it, our shirts and hats, and he's already sold a lot of that. So he's really good at what he does.
He really is, isn't he? And you know, what a great crew here. They all get along so well, and the fact that they start out their day and their meetings and stuff with prayer, I think that says so much. And the shirts, I've got to talk about the shirts just a second. I know John is great about selling them, like you said earlier, but he really pushes them. But you can get women's too in the V-neck. I've got one of the V-necks. But where can we get them? Can we go ahead and start getting them now?
Yeah, we actually have worked it out with Werner's. They're carrying it, and you can go to Werner's and get it, or you can stop any of the four of us and grab one.
That's the main ones now.
Yeah.
We have a website now. GoatIslandBrewing.com that my son Derek Dean built for us and did a great job. Got historic pictures of Coleman on there, so go on there and look around.
Good deal. And that maybe that'll keep us updated too on the progress that they're making down here. And periodically we'll come back and sort of keep you updated on when it's going to happen, when the door's going to actually open to where you can come down and be a part of Goat Island Brewing right here in Coleman. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be back.